Imagine this. You're sitting there watching this video when suddenly every single thing around you starts floating. Your coffee cup drifts toward the ceiling. Your pet floats past your face. You lift off your chair and begin tumbling through the air. But that's just the beginning, because in the next few minutes, every ocean on Earth would become a floating sphere of water in space. The atmosphere would start bleeding away into the void, and the planet itself would begin to tear apart. What if I told you that losing gravity wouldn't just change life on Earth, it would end it in the most spectacular and terrifying ways imaginable? Welcome to Space Prime. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of the most catastrophic thought experiments in physics. What would actually happen if Earth's gravity suddenly vanished? Not weakened, not reduced, completely gone. Fair warning, by the end of this video, you'll never take the force holding you to your chair for granted again. The immediate chaos. Let's start with what would happen in the first few seconds, because the immediate effects would be both hilarious and horrifying. Every single thing not permanently attached to something else would instantly begin floating. And I mean everything. Every drop of liquid in every container, every grain of sand on every beach, every person, every animal, every loose object would suddenly find themselves in free fall, except there would be nowhere to fall to. But here's where it gets interesting. You wouldn't just gently float upward like you're in a swimming pool. The moment gravity disappears, you and everything else would continue moving in whatever direction you were already moving. Plus, you'd be affected by Earth's rotation. Since our planet spins at about 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, losing gravity would essentially turn everyone into projectiles moving at incredible speeds. People at the equator would be flung eastward at 1,000 miles per hour. People at the poles would spin in place. Everyone else would be launched at various angles depending on their latitude. Cars driving down highways would suddenly become airborne missiles with no way to steer or stop. Airplanes would continue flying in straight lines until they ran out of fuel, assuming their engines could still function without gravity to help with fuel flow and air intake. But the most immediate danger wouldn't be the floating, it would be the impacts. Imagine every loose object in your house suddenly becoming a projectile moving at hundreds of miles per hour. Kitchen knives, furniture, electronics, all becoming deadly debris in a zero-gravity shooting gallery. Buildings would face immediate structural problems too. Most architecture assumes gravity will pull things downward. Without that force, structures designed around compression and downward loads would begin to experience unprecedented stresses and start falling apart in ways engineers never anticipated. The atmospheric catastrophe. Now let's talk about what happens to the air you're breathing, because this is where things go from chaotic to absolutely terrifying. Earth's atmosphere is held in place by gravity. It's a blanket of gases compressed against our planet's surface by the same force that keeps you from floating away. Remove gravity, and that blanket starts to unravel immediately. The atmosphere wouldn't disappear instantly. Gas molecules have mass and momentum, so they can't just vanish. But without gravity to compress them downward, they would begin expanding outward in all directions. The atmospheric pressure that keeps your lungs functioning, that keeps water liquid at room temperature, that protects you from the vacuum of space, would start dropping rapidly. At sea level, atmospheric pressure is about 14.7 pounds per square inch. As gravity disappears and the atmosphere expands, this pressure would plummet. Within minutes, the air pressure would drop so low that water would begin boiling at room temperature. The saliva in your mouth would start to bubble. The moisture in your eyes would begin to vaporize. But here's the truly terrifying part. As atmospheric pressure drops, humans would face something called ebulism, the formation of vapor bubbles in bodily fluids. Your blood wouldn't boil like in Hollywood movies, but the dissolved gases in your bloodstream would come out of solution, creating potentially fatal gas embolisms. Even if you somehow survived the immediate effects, you'd be facing another problem. Without atmospheric pressure, you'd lose consciousness within about 15 seconds due to hypoxia, as oxygen becomes too thin to sustain brain function. And this is all happening while you're tumbling through the air at hundreds of miles per hour, surrounded by floating debris and the slowly expanding atmosphere bleeding away into space. The oceanic apocalypse. If you think losing the atmosphere is bad, wait until you hear what happens to Earth's oceans. Gravity doesn't just keep you on the ground, it keeps every drop of water in every ocean basin. The moment gravity vanishes, approximately 1.37 billion cubic kilometers of water would suddenly have nothing holding it down. But water doesn't just float away gently. It has momentum, it has surface tension, and it responds to temperature and pressure changes in complex ways. As Earth's gravity disappears, the oceans would begin lifting off the planet's surface, but they wouldn't stay together as recognizable bodies of water. The first thing that would happen is that ocean water would start forming enormous floating spheres due to surface tension, the same force that makes water droplets round. But these wouldn't be stable configurations. The water would be churning, boiling, due to the reduced atmospheric pressure, and expanding as dissolved gases come out of solution. Imagine the Pacific Ocean becoming a massive, tumbling sphere of boiling water floating in space above the Earth's surface. Now imagine that sphere breaking apart into millions of smaller spheres, each one spinning and boiling and expanding. Any marine life caught in this oceanic chaos would face an impossible situation. Fish depend on water pressure to maintain their swim bladders and internal pressure. Without gravity, many deep-sea creatures would literally explode as the pressure they've adapted to suddenly vanishes. Meanwhile, the ocean floor would be exposed for the first time in billions of years. Massive underwater mountain ranges, trenches deeper than Mount Everest is tall, and the remains of countless shipwrecks would suddenly be visible, assuming anyone was still alive and in a position to observe them. But the exposed ocean floor would also start affecting global climate immediately. The thermal mass of the oceans regulates Earth's temperature. Without that massive heat sink, temperature fluctuations would become extreme and unpredictable. The planetary breakdown. Now we get to the really catastrophic part. What happens to Earth itself? You might think that losing gravity would just affect things on the surface, but you'd be wrong. Gravity isn't just a force that pulls things down. It's the fundamental force holding our entire planet together. Earth isn't a solid ball of rock. It's a complex, layered system held in equilibrium by gravity. The core is molten metal under incredible pressure. The mantle is hot, flowing rock. The crust is a relatively thin shell floating on top of all that molten material. Remove gravity, and this entire system would start coming apart. The first thing that would happen is that the pressure holding the Earth's core together would disappear. The molten iron and nickel in the outer core, which generates our planet's magnetic field, would begin expanding outward. Without the magnetic field, Earth would lose its protection from solar radiation and cosmic rays. The mantle, which drives plate tectonics and volcanic activity through convection currents powered by gravity, would also begin to destabilize. Molten rock that's normally held in check by gravitational pressure would start expanding and cooling in unpredictable ways. But here's the truly mind-bending part. The Earth's crust itself would begin breaking apart. The tectonic plates that make up continents and ocean floors are held together by gravitational forces. Without gravity, these massive chunks of rock would begin floating away from each other. Mountain ranges would crumble as the gravitational compression that holds them up disappears. The Himalayas, formed by the collision of tectonic plates driven by gravitational forces, would begin to spread out and collapse. Essentially, Earth would begin transforming from a spherical planet into a loose collection of floating debris, rocks, metals, crystals, and gases, all drifting apart in space. The solar system consequences. But wait, it gets worse. Losing Earth's gravity wouldn't just affect our planet, it would destabilize the entire solar system. Gravity isn't just what keeps you on the ground. It's the fundamental force that keeps planets in orbit around the sun, moons in orbit around planets, and the entire cosmic dance of celestial bodies in motion. If Earth suddenly lost its gravitational field, the moon would immediately stop orbiting and fly off into space in a straight line. The moon's gravitational influence on Earth's tides, rotation, and axial stability would vanish instantly. But Earth's gravity also affects other objects in the solar system. We're constantly interacting gravitationally with asteroids, comets, and other planets. Without Earth's gravitational influence, the orbits of near-Earth asteroids would change unpredictably. Some might be flung toward the inner solar system, potentially threatening Venus or Mercury. Others might be scattered toward the outer planets. Even more dramatically, Earth's orbital relationship with other planets would be disrupted. The complex gravitational dance between Earth, Mars, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter helps maintain stable orbits throughout the solar system. Remove one significant gravitational player, and the entire system could become chaotic. Over longer timescales, the absence of Earth's gravity could affect the asteroid belt, the orbits of Jupiter's moons, and even the long-term stability of the solar system itself. We're not just talking about losing gravity on Earth, we're talking about fundamentally altering the gravitational architecture of our entire cosmic neighborhood. The biological nightmare. Let's get personal and talk about what would happen to you and every other living thing on Earth. Every organism on this planet evolved under the constant influence of gravity. Our bones developed to support our weight against gravitational pull. Our circulatory system is designed to pump blood upward against gravity. Our inner ear contains organs specifically evolved to detect gravitational orientation. The moment gravity disappears, your body would begin failing in ways that would be both fascinating and horrifying from a biological perspective. Your circulatory system would immediately malfunction. Your heart is designed to pump blood against gravity to reach your brain. Without gravity, blood would distribute throughout your body unpredictably, potentially causing dangerous fluid shifts. Your brain might become flooded with blood while your extremities become starved of circulation. Your bones would begin a process of rapid deterioration. Bone tissue is constantly being broken down and rebuilt in response to gravitational stress. Without that stress, your skeleton would start dissolving itself. Astronauts experience bone loss after just weeks in space. Imagine what would happen with zero gravity permanently. Your muscle system would also start shutting down. Muscles maintain their strength by working against gravity. Without that resistance, muscle tissue would begin atrophying immediately. Within hours, you'd lose the ability to control your movements effectively. But perhaps most disturbing would be the effects on your inner ear and spatial orientation. Your vestibular system depends on gravity to tell you which way is up. Without gravitational reference, you'd experience severe, permanent vertigo and complete spatial disorientation. Even if you somehow survived all the other catastrophes, the biological effects alone would be fatal within days or weeks. The cosmic perspective. So what would happen if we suddenly lost gravity? In short, everything would end. Within seconds, the surface of Earth would become a chaotic storm of floating debris and tumbling humans. Within minutes, the atmosphere would begin bleeding away into space, and the oceans would lift off the planet as boiling spheres of water. Within hours, Earth itself would begin coming apart as its internal structure destabilized. Within days, the planet would be an expanding cloud of rocks, metals, water vapor, and gases, with the moon flying off into interplanetary space, and the entire solar system's gravitational balance disrupted. But here's the thing that should make you appreciate gravity even more. This scenario is purely hypothetical because gravity can't just disappear. Gravity isn't a force that can be switched on or off. It's a fundamental property of mass and energy. As long as Earth has mass, it will have gravity. The only way to lose gravity would be for Earth to lose its mass, which would mean the planet would have to be completely destroyed or dispersed. So in a way, asking what would happen if we lost gravity is really asking what would happen if Earth ceased to exist. And the answer is, everything we know, everything we are, and everything we've ever built would become cosmic dust drifting through the void. Pretty sobering thought, isn't it? What aspect of losing gravity do you think would be the most terrifying? The immediate chaos, the atmospheric collapse, or the planetary breakdown? Let me know in the comments below. And if this thought experiment has given you a new appreciation for the force keeping you safely planted on Earth, subscribe to Space Prime and hit that notification bell for more mind-bending cosmic scenarios. Because gravity isn't just a force, it's the invisible foundation of everything we call reality. Thanks for watching Space Prime. Until next time, stay grounded.